Welcome on in, everybody, here at AuburnUndercover.com. Here with Jason Caldwell. They just turned on the water on us here at Jordan Hare Stadium.
The cannons are out, but thankfully nobody's here.
Trying to get us off the field. Jason, a pseudo scrimmage that I think we sort of saw today. Some really good execution from this team in their season opener against Alabama A&M, 73-3. I mean, that's about as convincing as you can get. As Hugh Freeze touched on the postgame, lots of stuff to work on, but in particular, we talked about these new receivers. They were clicking on all cylinders in this first game. Doesn't matter who you were playing. That was an impressive element of Auburn's season opener today.
Yeah, it was. I thought they did exactly what they needed to do. When you start talking about executing in offense, defense, special teams, making plays, getting guys in space, I thought one of the biggest parts of the game is something I've been screaming about for years, which is they kept playing offense.
Yeah.
They didn't just go, hey, let's middle of the second quarter, it's 38-0. Let's just go in a shell and run the ball up the middle. They didn't do those things, and that's valuable for Malcolm Simmons and Perry Thompson and those guys. It's valuable for Hank Brown. They got to actually some real world experience in this offense. And I thought that was big, and so I like those things. We thought we'd see a bunch of guys on defense. We did. Some mistakes here or there, but overall, it's hard to ask for a whole lot more than we saw tonight.
Right. And as Jason brought up, I mean, those two shot plays in the second half, as Freeze mentioned, one of them is offsides. So that's the throw to Sam Jackson, as you pointed out.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a circus play.
Yes.
It's definitely one of those interesting ones. I think he kind of stole it from Bryce Kane there at the last minute, but jumps offsides, you got to throw it there. And then, like you mentioned, them continuing to run the offense, the long play to Malcolm Simmons is an RPO.
Yeah.
Had an extra guy in the box. Simmons is one-on-one. Hits a nice little start-stop. 3 touchdowns for the freshman. Perry Thompson gets one. Cam Coleman on his first ever college catch gets a touchdown. And Malcolm Simmons gets 2 touchdowns because, as you mentioned, special teams was also in a good spot. We saw Keontae Scott get a punt return. Touchdown, stepped out.
Barely
stepped out. But Mike O'Reilly blocks a punt.
Towns
Magoo was great.
And, impressive as we thought he would be. He was booming the ball like crazy and kicked a couple that were inches away from going into the stands. Now he was a little downwind, but it was a fun game. Exactly what you want.
Yeah, and Payton Thorne, this was an opportunity for him to show off some of his new toys because every touchdown that was thrown by any quarterback today was to a new player. It was to somebody who wasn't here last year. Keandre Lambert-Smith is also somebody that should be mentioned. He had 2 touchdowns today. He had him and Cam Coleman back-to-back, just one-play drives, just throwing it down the field. Really nicely done rub route with Cam Coleman, kind of occupying 2 guys, not really touching them. Keandre Lambert-Smith gives you that sort of presence. And then we see Sam Jackson, the Cal transfer. He gets in on the fun there. But for Payton Thorne, I thought it was, obviously, like Freeze said, there were a couple throws he may have wanted back. When you go for 300-plus and 4 touchdowns, it's tough to complain about that much, but they know that you're going to really want those throws back against somebody like Cal. You're really going to want those throws back against somebody like Arkansas. But at the end of the day, you look at the stat line and what he was able to do with these receivers. This was a little taste, I think, of the explosion that this group could have that they've been searching for years, and obviously it's why they went so hard in the 24 class for these guys.
Yeah, I think it's something we've learned from Hugh Freeze. I think it's something that is part of their style, is that they want perfection. Yeah. And even in a game like tonight, you go, look, there's going to be some things that you didn't do well. And he talked about, Payton Thorne, there were some decisions, a couple of things, a couple of protections. That's what you do. You pick apart, go, hey, there's things that can get better, because you're right, you're not always going to have wide open touchdown throws. But I did think, and it showed up tonight, no matter who you're playing, you can see, I've seen Auburn teams for a long time. Alabama A&M is not terrible. Right. Auburn has played worse teams than that. But you see, when you have talented guys and you execute and you have a system and you have a plan, that you can go out and put up some big things. And we saw that tonight. Like, hey, look, they weren't just going, we're just going to go run this play. No, they were going to look, let's go execute what exactly we're supposed to do, and they continued to put up points.
Yeah, and I just thought, like you said, sort of noticing those little things, the confidence of Thorne, like glancing downfield, knowing, like, all right, it's a one-on-one, he's probably going to be behind the defense, I'm just going to put the ball back there. That's obviously why you go out and try to get such good receiving talent. Defensive side of the ball, 10 tackles for loss in this game. I thought that was a big point. We saw guys like Malik Blockton get into the backfield. Jalen McLeod got into the backfield. DeMarcus Riddick had some big plays. Robert Woodyard had a really, really good game. And so we knew we were going to see those guys flying around on defense. Freeze's one criticism, I think, that he touched on a couple times for the defense is he thought they would kind of crush the pocket a little bit better. It was interesting, too. He said, the game planning, both offense and defense, sort of went a different way than you expected. That's what week one is, because you have no film, you have no idea. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what they do to change things up for Cal. Isaiah Rakes didn't go, sort of a minor ankle thing they held him out with. But by all accounts, a very disruptive defensive front for them. And I thought a couple goal line stands. Now, they missed the field goal, of course, at the end of those, but for them to bow up, doesn't matter who you're playing, I thought it was some good execution on that end.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think that's the one question for me still is the middle of that defensive line. We saw Keldrick Falk and Jalen McLeod, Kieran Crawford, really athletic outside. We saw a lot of Jamonte Waller. And Malik Autry. Malik blocked and made plays. And you go, but did we see any from any of the other guys? Was there a lot of guys that made and created havoc in the middle of that defensive front?
Right.
No. Can Isaiah Rakes be that guy? I think that's still the question mark. That's probably the biggest question coming out of here. We saw secondary-wise, made a couple of mistakes here or there. You expect those things from a group of guys that were really playing for the first time, but overall, it's hard to critique a whole lot.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about what elements really haven't been mentioned. They scored in 47 seconds. Jarquez
Time
Hunter.
Possession, terrible time possession.
Yeah, they definitely lost the time possession battle. Jarquez Hunter gets the first touchdown of the season. If you stood in the concession line, got caught up in one for a little bit too long, you may have legitimately come back to your seat and have been 21-0.
Yeah.
They scored in 66 seconds worth of time of possession. And so, but like Hugh Freeze said, it was just the fact that they were running the offense. It was not we talked about the pass run ratio tonight. It was not an example of we feel good about beating this team up, let's just run the ball and get out of here. Now, for the first time in my time covering the team, they changed the second half, 10-minute quarters. I have never personally been a part of that, but like you said, it was so important for them to go out there and run the offense because it opened up those explosive plays. And like we talked about before the game, that's just the kind of stuff you want on tape now going into a much tougher opponent.
Yeah, I thought going to 10-minute quarters was the right thing to do, because you had 10 extra minutes, you're probably going to get some snaps for guys. But Freeze said the balance is, trying not to embarrass someone while still. Sooner or later, you're going to have to get down and go, we just got to run up the middle. We just got to get out of here.
Yep.
Then you're just kind of wasting your time.
Yep.
So I thought they handled it well. Thought it did, good job. And again, crowd was great. Students were awesome. This was everything you could hope for a season opener for a team that it's going to depend on so many young guys.
For sure. Really good environment. Keandre Lambert-Smith, talking to him in the locker room, he was saying, last time they were here, it was an orange out as well. Certainly a different environment for him coming from Penn State, but obviously they did a really good job, I thought, with a good night game here against obviously an overmatched opponent. Everybody sort of stayed in it the whole way, and so good opener all around. We are really looking forward now. It's a quick page turn now to a good team in Cal, a team that has a lot more competency on both sides of the ball, is obviously a lot more talented, and is a team that took you to the wire last year. So we'll obviously get into previewing them throughout the week. But for Jason Caldwell, I am Nathan King. Hope everybody enjoyed the season opener for Auburn, 73-3 over Alabama A&M. Be sure to check us out, auburnundercover.com.